Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coin Drop Podcast. This is beta episode number 14. Moving right along, banging these out. Crazy that we're already on 14. For those of you joining us on the stream or watching this on YouTube on Coin Drop VODs, you'll see to my left is not Tim. That's Mike. Say hello, Mike. Yep.
Also, Hi, I'm not Tim.
Yep. You've been on an episode. We've done one before with you or two. I can't remember if you've done two now or if this is your second, I guess.
I think this is my second, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Tim is out of town. I think he's camping or something like that. Next week I will be gone, and hopefully Mike and Tim will be filling in for an episode next week because I'll be in town, out of town, in a different town. Yeah. So before we get started, Mike, how you been, man? I like to kind of start it off conversationally, just checking in. How's your week been?
It's been hectic, especially this last couple days. I've just been like hella sick. Yeah. But I'm doing better today. You just watched me just hoof down a fat burrito for like the last 5 minutes, so clearly I'm doing better. But yeah, man, just grinding away at work, playing some Division Heartland, the closed beta.
Yeah. So. I'm excited to find out more about that when the NDA comes up and you can actually talk about that. So we'll have you back for that for sure when that NDA expires.
Best I can say is it's good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Has me interested from what I've read and some of the things that I might have or might not have seen. I actually just got an invite in my email to the Palia second beta test sometime next week. It's another NDA closed game, so or a closed thing, so I can't talk about it. But I'll be excited to kind of check that out once I can hopefully get in and play it, and once the NDA expires, kind of talk about that. It's that like third person action adventure, kind of Harvest Moon, like chill crafting harvesting game.
Oh yeah.
They showed it at the Nintendo press conference, and it looks like a good chill game for just like winding down, whatever. So today, first off, we want to talk about something that was brought to my attention. I saw this relatively briefly. Let me pull up the exact quote. I saw this briefly going through news when Diablo 4 was announced, and I guess I didn't think too much about it at the time. But a current, potentially now former, hopefully not, a current, potentially now former Bungie dev went on Twitter and made a post that has gotten a lot of blowback to the point where Bobby Kotick himself replied to the tweet. For those of you who don't know, Bobby Kotick is a giant piece of shit who runs Activision Blizzard. So fuck him anyways. If you're listening, Bobby, come at me, bro.
Throw hands. Let's go.
He's I mean, it's Activision Blizzard. Like, this is the man that's like fully involved in the BS of Activision Blizzard. So fuck that guy anyways. However, that said, the content of this post, direct quote, which the post has since been taken down, was criticism of the what's the scaling, the enemy scaling of Diablo 4. So as you level up in Diablo 4, wherever you are, whoever you're playing with, enemies scale to your level. So for example, if you're level 23, your buddy's level 4, you can still play together. When you're fighting the monsters, they'll be level 24. When he's fighting them on his screen, they're level 4, whatever. So basically the content says Diablo 4 seals it. Enemy scaling is one of the worst ideas in video games. It's lazy, neglects several playstyles, ruins player power trips, and just sucks. Never heard of someone liking that type of system. I'm sure those people exist. They're wrong. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and say this as someone who's wrong constantly. It's okay to be wrong. Dude, seriously, you don't need to fight. You don't need to argue. It is 100% okay to be wrong. And while how that message is said isn't the best, I totally agree with him. 100%. He is absolutely in his right as a person who, let's be honest, probably plays a lot of video games. I mean, that's like making movies, right? Like, you don't make movies because you want to make movies and have never seen like Saving Private Ryan, right? Like
Yeah.
you go into an industry because you're in love with that industry. It's why we do this, right? Like it's why we do Coin Drop. We love the gaming industry.
Yeah.
So for him to get as much backlash as he's gotten for his comments because he's a dev is total bullshit.
Yeah,
on
but
one
at
side.
at the same time, I mean, when you're actually you have some form of leadership or like experience in the industry, and you're in a position where people are actually looking at you, like you're in their spotlight, you're in everybody's spotlight, having opinions like that, it's hard to like be able to express them and not get backlash, because it goes both ways. You could praise that SBMM, skill-based matchmaking, whatever, and have people on the opposite side still give you backlash. So it's a double-edged sword. You can't manage it as efficiently and expect nothing out of it, if that makes sense.
Right. Ultimately, here's my thing. Like, I think this guy, his post or girl, I don't know who it was again, or whatever, this individual, the content of their post is reasonable. Like, it's not overly aggressive. It's a little bit more aggressive than it probably should have been. But at the same time, I totally agree with them. They make a lot of good points. It does ruin your power trip, right? It ruins the feeling of being strong that you got from Diablo 3 and Diablo 2 as you leveled up. You know, you got to a point where you out-leveled the monsters. And I think level scaling to a point is really good, but zones in the game should be like, this block will scale from 1 to 15, this block will scale from 16, like that, instead of the entire world scaling to you, so that if you're struggling against monsters that are your level, or struggling to find decent drops, because Diablo is a RNG game, you're at the mercy of what drops, what you find from your merchants, that kind of thing. If you're struggling in one area because you're under geared, you should be able to go to another area and grind and get decent gear to be able to continue, right? So like, I do kind of agree with some of this person's points. I think a lot of
the wording is just like way off.
Yeah, it's really aggressive. And I hate that this happened to this person, because Bobby Kotick replied, and his reply was 2 words. It was lazy, huh? Well, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, you're the CEO of the company. What the fuck do you know about developing? Fuck you anyways.
That kind of brings me back to the Division 1, the first division that came out, had a similar system set up where it was like you had each of these parts of New York that were leveled based on the tier of expectancy. So like, you know, Hell's Kitchen would be level like 1 through 12.
Right.
And then the next little hub over would be like 12 through 16, and it would go up from there. But then at the same time, they also had that level scaling and multiplayer that kind of ruined it for a lot of people, especially for myself, because I played the closed beta. So I got to keep all of the stuff that I earned from the beta. So by the time the game came out, I was already like level 20 something. And when my friends bought it and they joined my game at like level 1, they were going up against level 20 enemies.
Right.
There was no like alleviation or like merging of like maybe lowering the top tier enemy down to like whatever the average is between whoever you're playing with and their level and your level. So I can kind of understand where he's coming from with, it's a stupid mechanic, but my God, that tweet. That whole thing was just like, oh my God.
It's a little cringy. So, you know, there's the other side of this. I personally like to think.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but my boy in the chat, Tony, says that they can't hear me in stream.
Oh, what the fuck? That's an issue.
Doing it again.
Hang on.
It's doing what Tim did. Rip.
All right, say something.
Something.
I don't even have my chat window open, so I didn't even see that he said that. Well, the good news is, Tony, when this comes out on Wednesday,
he can hear me now. Yeah.
You can hear what Mike said. So, so that's a lot of audio lost for the video side. Okay. That's my fault. I didn't copy over the Discord audio when I was making this background, so that one's on me. That's a me fuck up.
That's
so
right. I can splice the audio back to the VOD for later.
You can do that. That'll work. So I like to think that when you're going to have an argument, you have to at least consider the other side of the argument. You've got to be informed enough to understand the talking points of the other side, regardless of what side you're on of any argument. And I try really hard to do that with every argument that I have a stance on, that I have a very firm stance on. And in this case, I can understand the backlash, and I can understand if this person was fired, because being a prior military individual, it was very, very strict on what you could say, how you could act. What you represent the entire military whenever you open your mouth, whenever you do anything, whenever you're in uniform, period. So from that perspective, I can understand Bungie being like, holy shit, we need to mitigate this. This isn't okay that the CEO of another company, responded to one of our devs who had this critical of a feedback. But at the same time, man, this is private industry. You don't work for the fucking government when you work for a private company. And it makes it feel like devs are having their freedom of speech stripped. Like they are not allowed to say their thoughts and opinions on other companies' games. And it almost feels like even if they wanted to, it's not in their best interest, because God forbid somebody at, say, Ubisoft, who's working on Prince of Persia, sees something Riot Games does and he's a fan of it, but he's like, hey, this is stupid, this is bullshit, you guys shouldn't have done this, just venting like everybody does on the internet. And then in the future, a job posting at Riot opens up and he wants to apply. Well, you said this about our game in the past. Like, it almost seems like saying anything in that industry is going to hinder your career. And that's got to be, and I don't know if that's the case, I really don't. But it feels that way reading this and seeing the reaction to it. It makes me wonder, like, are devs being kind of silenced and not allowed to kind of share their opinions about other devs' games?
Well, the other thing that goes with that is just the shitty community that is gaming right now. Like, gamers will send people death threats just because they added a skin they don't like to the cosmetic store. Like, it's so stupid. But this is a world that we're in now where we have access to all of this information on the World Wide Web and can interact with people around the world. So clearly when people are mad, they're going to act out. And that ends up translating into, like you said, potential future jobs, where if someone gives an opinion about something, even if it was decently constructive and not just like, oh, this thing you did is shit. The backlash ends up becoming part of the interview, so to speak, where they're going back and looking at your history with, these other devs that you've worked with or interacted with, and then they see the backlash that you got from a tweet or an AMA on Reddit or anything like that, and it can ultimately affect the final decision of whether you can work with this company or work on this project with them. And it sucks, but it's just where we are now. As
somebody who, I like to think of myself as a creative individual, and part of why Coin Drop came back was because of how bad the gaming community has gotten and how entitled it's gotten. And I think there needs to be a voice out there that kind of pushes back against that loud minority of like, it's got to be my way. Devs have to do what I say. And that's kind of where I wanted Coin Drop to come back to. But as somebody who likes to think of themselves as a creative person, as somebody who has written a full movie script, 192-page movie script, still have it in my drawer, still have it. Constructive criticism is critical to providing a good product.
That's why we have closed betas and things. Yeah.
Right. And the problem is people have gone away from constructive criticism and gone to just insulting. And not everybody. Again, not everybody. This guy, the core of what he was saying was he was upset with the level scaling. He thought it was lazy. He thought it kind of ruined a lot of the gameplay. And again, I agree with him. As a developer, though, he should have said that differently. he should have. And there's a lot of people all over Reddit and everywhere that are like, oh, Blizzard needs to change this. Blizzard needs to change that. And it's like, you don't get to make that decision. Okay? You get to make a suggestion and a request. Like, hey, man, it'd be really cool if we had a gem bag in Diablo 4. I agree. I think that's fantastic. The people who go, fucking Blizzard launching this game without a gem bag. It's fucking trash tier. Fuck this shit. 10, fucking 0 out of 10. I can't believe they launched it without this quality of life feature. Fuck off, dude. Fuck off. Who the fuck do you think you are? So, you know,
the majority, apparently.
It's gotten to a point where we've moved away from constructive criticism, being like, hey, man, you've got a great product here. But if you made this change, this change, this change, I think overall the quality would be increased. And it's become people who do that are viewed just as negatively in some lights as people who just make demands and say your shit sucks. So I don't know. I think the internet is simultaneously the greatest thing ever and the worst thing ever. And I think a lot of people share that, but I really feel for this dev. I hope he or she is okay. I hope Blizzard or Bungie doesn't fucking fire him over a tweet. You know, like I said, in the military, that would be, that'd be pretty bad in the military, but you're a government asset at that point. To criticize a government or another government agency would be really bad. In the private industry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was to say, before I move on to the next topic,
Sure.
The other thing I wanted to note is kind of going back to Bungie and the dev in question. The other really shitty thing about it is that the criticism came from someone in power, by all definition of being a CEO in that industry. So even if the dev isn't necessarily in the wrong, the fact that that person, that CEO, can make a tweet and have an entire waterfall of just all this shit surround them, and then also the Bungie dev. It's just a really shitty situation. And I'm with you. I hope Bungie doesn't just kick him to the curb because some CEO at another company was like, oh, this is shit, and here's why.
Yeah. And for Bobby Kotick, like, I'm not a fan of this guy, but you just got your company accused of being lazy, and your response is 2 words, which in it and of itself is pretty fucking lazy, dude. Let's be honest. Like,
the redundancy is great.
Yeah, that I was like, Bobby. Yeah. So I wish this guy the best. I do, or girl, whoever it is. I wish them the best. I really hope they're okay. I really hope Bungie doesn't kick them. You know, I can understand a slap on the wrist, a slap on the PP. You know, that's something that happened to me numerous times in the military. It is what it is. You step outside your line, you get your PP slapped, and then you get back in line. It's just that's how it works, you know. And I hope I hope it's no more than that. I would hate to see this person lose their career, their passion over a tweet that just happened to be one of the few that got a response from a CEO just because they worked at another development company. And I know that there's some animosity between Bungie devs and Activision Blizzard because of that partnership. And like, there's a whole nother layer to this, right? Going deeper, but still, like, don't take freedom of speech from devs. The people that are capable of understanding game systems on a deeper level than us simple plebe-ass consumers are the devs. If a dev says it's lazy, it might be kind of lazy. I don't know anything about development, but level scaling to me in general, I'm not a big fan of it. I agree with that guy, but it has its good points and bad points is really all I got to say on that. Do you have any final thoughts on this one before we move on?
Don't be a dick on Twitter. The end, I guess.
Jesus. Put that on this man's gravestone, because he's gonna die on that hill.
It's kind of hard not to be a dick on Twitter. That's just Twitter.
It's kind of hard not to be a dick on the internet these days. Like, that's anonymity has allowed people to say and do whatever they want, which is great. And again, awful. So moving on, Daedalic, I think I'm saying that right. Daedalic Entertainment has announced they are no longer making games. if that name does or doesn't sound familiar to you, they are the ones responsible for the absolute clusterfuck, the incredible achievement of a clusterfuck, the game that outshined all of the bad releases of 2023 so far, Golem. They closed up shop. Yeah.
I played Golem for like 2, maybe 3 hours when it came out.
Yeah, that's all you got to say, or is there more to that? Or
hard pass. It kind of took me off guard when you mentioned it in the prep. That's why I started busting out laughing, because I literally saw a couple weeks ago that they posted that they're sorry that the game came out the way it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
and basically just trying to apologize for the whole grand, no way to sugarcoat it, grand fuck up. And I kind of expected something big to happen, right? Because Lord of the Rings is one of those brands, so to speak, one of those names that if you try to make any form of media with Lord of the Rings and you fail, it's not great. It's
you might say career ending.
Yeah, it's career ending. That's like when what's his face that did that Amazon Prime show, he did his own take on Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it had one season and then it got canceled, and everybody ended up shitting all over him again on Twitter, because the only thing he had to say about it was, "This isn't Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. This is mine." Yep. And everybody was like, "No," and then that was it.
Yep. And that's the reason I still haven't watched it. Yeah, it was when he was like, "This is mine." I was like, "Dude, fuck you."
Yeah, basically. So I expected something big to happen to them for not being able to deliver something that we wanted. Mm-hmm. But to close down the whole studio, have they developed anything else besides Golem? I've never heard of them prior to Golem.
I'm not sure. Let's pull them up here real quick. They announced it on a tweet, so I'll read the tweet while I Google this real quick. Tweet was announced. This was yesterday on June 30th. Daedalic Entertainment is shutting down internal game development and shifting to publishing. So they're moving into publishing. Development for its next Lord of the Rings game in dev since mid-2022 is halted. So it's not working on anything. Let's see. Yeah, they're fucking dead-zo. They're out of Germany. It looks like they've made quite a few games. Let's take a look here. This might have been their first high-profile one. Yeah, it looks like a lot of indie stuff. So Golem, they've launched a lot of wild indies. Nothing that looks familiar to me.
Okay.
Let's see. Unrailed. If you're familiar with that game, they made Unrailed.
I am. I actually got that game for free on Epic Games. So
it's a good game. It's not bad. It's not bad.
It's good couch co-op.
Yeah, State of Mind is another game they did. The Long Journey Home. Just naming a few that like I recognize. Shadow Tactics, Blade of the Shogun.
I think I remember seeing that one.
I mean, they've done a decent number of games, but like I said, a lot of them are definitely smaller, definitely indie titles. A wide variety. I'm seeing a lot of like adventure games, some horror games. Yeah. So they have been making games. Let's see. It looks like their first one was in 2012. So they're just over 10 years old. And for them to shut down is pretty sad, that this game was so poorly received that it literally got them to shut their doors. According to this article that I pulled up for this conversation from Game Rant, Daedalic may be shutting down its doors for development. That's the wrong clip. Where was I reading? Here we go. Golem was riddled with bugs upon release. Reviews lamisated, whatever the fuck that means. basically just bashed on its dull gameplay loop, uninteresting narrative elements, and overall sloppy and underbaked puzzle design. I guess you'd probably be more familiar with that than me, but I guess it was just really, really poorly done. And to see them completely shut down development, looking at their history, it kind of makes sense because like this looked like it was going to be their make or break game, according to like their Steam page. This was going to be what either propelled them into a double A situation or, as it did, ended up ruining them. So it seems like they're done developing, which hopefully publishing works out for them. I wish them the best. Obviously, I never want to see a company close down. But
maybe they can recoup some funds from publishing and try again in 10 years, something like that.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what their other game was that they were working on, though. Their other Lord of the Rings title that obviously got pulled from them, because I don't know that one was announced in any.
Yeah, I didn't see any announcement for it either.
Yeah. So yeah, that was something we, like I said, we were just prepping, getting ready for the podcast, and that came across my desk. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but when you put out subpar quality products, the voice of the consumer, especially in a franchise like Lord of the Rings, that's deadly. That's like fucking up Star Wars, you know?
Remember when Disney pulled EA's license?
Yeah. Disney.
Oh man,
Disney is like the internet in that it's simultaneously the greatest thing and worst thing to ever happen to Star Wars. So
absolutely.
Oh
man.
Yeah, that's basically all there's to say on that, guys. It's unfortunate, but studios close down all the time. The original Blizzard North that was up here in Washington shut down after D2 while they were still working on the original D3. Studios close. It happens. I hope they're able to transition to publishing and hopefully get some other Germany indie developers under their wing to publish their games and help them with that.
Yeah.
I guess we'll move on then to kind of our last topic for the night. Rockstar, in a move that my co-host would say is taking a page out of the Book of Destiny, and Bungie, which I will debate with him later. Rockstar has taken a bunch of content and locked it behind a paywall, from what you told me.
Yeah, so this is kind of two parts. A few weeks ago, they released an update.
He just did air quotes for our audio listeners.
Yeah, sorry. To all versions of the game that's still supported. Obviously, the Xbox 360 and the PS3 versions are just, they exist, but they're not updated. So PC, PS4, Xbox One, PS5, and Xbox Series versions of the game all got a air quote update, where Rockstar decided to pull, what did they say, like all of the vehicles that were leased, purchased in their in-game like browser thing, and then you went quiet. Did you mute yourself on accident?
No. I'm listening. I'm trying to understand the idea of leasing. Like they lease the license for the car from the people that make the car. I haven't played GTA Online since like Heist first became a thing. So it's been a long time.
GTA Online, what they do is they basically take an amalgamation of like a few different cars and they'll create an in-game item and give it some random name that's within their humor.
Yeah.
So what they ended up doing in this latest update is basically pulling all of the cars that they deem unpopular on their in-game store or whatever that you can use to purchase the it's like a digital online dealership, more or less.
Yeah. I'm familiar with that part. I gotcha.
At first, everybody was kind of just like, well, what the fuck? And then they were like, oh, but if you already purchased it, then it's fine. You can keep it. And then all the PC players were kind of coming out of the woodworks. And they were like, hey, so how can I get these cars back? and nothing was really mentioned. And then after the update dropped, everybody realized they put all of these cars that they deemed unpopular and shoved them behind their like GTA Plus subscription, which is only available on PS5 and Xbox Series. So PC players, PS4 players, and Xbox One players effectively lost all of this content and can't even get it back if they decided to subscribe because they fucking can't.
That's so... That is a level of bullshit that is... Oof. Way to go, Rockstar. You just took my top slot as like, you're on my shit list. Like, wow.
I don't understand. Like, and the thing that pisses me off the most about it is they tried to hide it. When people brought it up, they were like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah,
and they were like, "Oh yeah, no, it's cool. It was just like the most unpopular cars. Like, you know, it's fine. And then if you happen to have purchased one of them in the past and they're in your garage or whatever, then you can keep it." That also ended up apparently being bullshit. I'm seeing some inklings on Reddit earlier today that people that previously purchased those cars because they don't have GTA Plus because they're on a different platform, suddenly the car is gone or just unusable.
So let me get this straight. Rockstar Plus subscription. You have to pay for that to get access to these cars, but it's only on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series consoles. So in addition to paying to play online in general on those consoles, if you play GTA Online, you now have to pay an additional subscription to get content that was previously included in the game that is now removed from the game and put behind a paywall and inaccessible to anybody who's not on those consoles.
More or less, because what it used to be, they introduced GTA Plus, I want to say a few months to a year after the updated version of the game released on those consoles. And it was initially like, oh, you know, you pay $4.99 a month or whatever, and then we also give you like in-game bonuses every month, so you get like an in-game cash bonus, an XP bonus for the entirety of your subscription or whatever, but no real incentive beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Rockstar's like shitty bass-ackwards train of thought is to pull content and then be like, if you want it, you can fucking pay for it. But only on these two consoles.
Right. Jesus. So this is where if Tim was here, he would say, well, Destiny has done this. Well, yes and no. So I'm going to address Tim directly because I know you're listening to this. If you're not watching it currently. Tim would say, well, Destiny 2 did the same thing when they vaulted Forsaken and a lot of the earlier content as they added content. So first of all, Destiny did that. Absolutely. Yeah, they took away content people paid for from years ago. Agreed. Kind of like Rockstar. Sure. However, Rockstar took not content, they took vehicles. Vehicles that they deemed were unpopular. Vehicles that, let's be honest, their asset on the servers probably took up like bits of space. Yep. Destiny vaulted content that were entire story arcs, planets, and other cinematics, like entire portions of the game were vaulted to keep like file story size level down. Yeah, like again, big stuff. Don't get me wrong. Forsaken and a bunch of other content. It's important to the storyline there. Not so important if you're a new player. So I understand their concern there, right? Like we're talking about one of the largest quote unquote MMOs there is. There is not a MMO that does what Destiny does. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm not a fanboy. Yes, my brother works at Bungie. I don't give a shit. I've never been super big on Bungie. Super big on Destiny. It's fun. I don't care that much. But we're talking about Forsaken, which released was the first expansion. No, not the first one. It was only a few years after the game released. Anyways, it's not relevant to new players or what's going on in the content of the game currently. And in order to make it so you're not downloading 7 terabytes of data, and they don't have to add an entire another building to house the fucking servers for the game as it continues to grow. They shelved it. They've removed it from the server so you can't access it. That doesn't mean it'll never come back. That just means it's gone for now. And I fully support this decision because there is not another MMO that looks like Destiny does. And all of those high quality assets, that content takes up a ton of space. You can argue there are bigger MMOs, but I would say in terms of actual data size, probably not. Probably not. So
just to swing back to GTA real quick.
Mhm.
Before this update, I think GTA was at, actually it wouldn't have changed, it's just been on a paywall. They're at like 130, 140 gigs for Grand Theft Auto now. Remember when the game came out on PC and it was still only like 74 gigabytes?
Yeah.
And that included the story content and then all the previous GTA Online stuff that was just ported over from like the PS3 and Xbox 360. Now we're at 140, almost 150 gigs for just the online shit.
Yeah. It's grown a lot. It's grown a lot. They have, I'll give them credit. They've added a ton of stuff for free. This seemed like a weird move that they did specifically to sell their subscription that they were looking at going, oh, nobody's going to pay for this because there's no real reason here.
Yeah.
So
I think they also ended up adding like in-game clothing items too, which again, it's just like people buy like a set of clothes and that's their outfit for the like entirety of the time that they play GTA Online. So that obviously that incentive wasn't going to work.
Yeah. It was definitely one of those things. It's like, oh, this is all the clothes that are in the game that will ever be in the game. Even in their updates, they haven't added, as far as I know, too much in terms of clothing. It's mostly like cars and content. So, but
they have a lot of clothes now, but it's
okay. It's
one of those things where it's like there's so many that they just
yeah. You can only cycle through so many t-shirts, right? But yeah, no, this seems like a move that was solely to sell this subscription that is just completely useless, it sounds like. I mean, if you're into the game and it's your thing, go for it, man. But like moving cars, I could understand moving missions, like again, like Destiny. Moving like, oh, okay, you can have access to these first 3 heists, and then the rest of the heists are behind this subscription.
Or even just adding bonus and like when you complete a mission, if you get like a bonus like 500K for being a GTA Plus subscriber.
Yeah.
That's an incentive.
Yeah. They went about this wrong, period. Like, sure, on paper, they probably, you could argue, and Tim probably will with me later, you could argue they took a page out of Bungie's book. I would argue that they took Bungie's book, burned it, and said, let me try it on my own. And just completely did it wrong. Just did it wrong. Yeah. So,
and the thing that upsets me more about it is GTA 6 is like, in the grand scheme of like release windows, it's right around the corner. So
I mean,
now
it's
what
probably
I'm wondering
closer than
is,
Elder Scrolls 6.
For sure. Jesus, that game's never going to come out.
No, it's not.
that this kind of sets a precedent for GTA 6, where I mean, it's going to repeat where it's like you get the single player stuff to start. They'll probably add the online multiplayer, a month or two later. That's what they did with GTA 5.
Mm-hmm.
But now this sets the precedent where when they add the multiplayer side of things, how much of that shit's going to be locked behind a paywall?
Yeah,
because they're treating it now like seasons, where like every few months you get like a new chapter of some story that they've been working on for GTA Online. What's to say they don't paywall that in the next game?
Yeah, it definitely sets a very interesting tone moving forward. And I don't know. GTA games have always been kind of like, I actually really enjoy the story in all of the GTA games. I think the story is fantastic. But that's all it's been for me. Like GTA 4, I think to this day probably is the best Grand Theft Auto in my opinion. Like everybody swears by San Andreas. I get it.
Fully agree.
But GTA 4 had, first of all, it had the Euphoria engine. It had physics that were just unbelievable for the time. And its story was really fucking compelling. It was really well done, really well voice acted. And 5 was great, but again, like the online side, I maybe it was I was too early of an adopter, right? Like the whole time GTA Online was out, I was playing it, and they're like, heists are coming, heists are coming, heists are coming. 4 years later, heists are finally here. Nah, fuck you, I've moved on. Like, sorry, you're not getting me back into
and
that
honestly,
game.
the implementation of heists is it's just
Garbage.
It's recycling matchmaking shit. That's all it is.
Yep. But yeah, I don't know. It definitely sets a dangerous precedent moving forward. This is one thing I think. This is a decision I think was made in a boardroom. This was not the developer's decision. This is not something the team. I can't imagine this is something the team wanted. This sounds like something that, if for whatever ungodly reason, investors were like, let's make more money on a game that has made ungodly amounts of money and been the reason we haven't released anything.
GTA in the 8, almost 9 years that it's been out has made more money than the other video games in the video game industry, movies, TV shows, books, and other paperback media combined. GTA has made more money for Rockstar than all of those industries combined.
It's a stupid number.
It's still not enough money, apparently.
Yeah, apparently not. So, greed corrupts, and that's where we're at with Rockstar. So Rockstar, if any of you devs out there are listening, I'm sorry for the backlash of hate you're going to get. Are getting. But you're the first point of contact, man. You're the fucking soldiers on the front lines. So I'm sorry you have to deal with the fact that some dickhead in a boardroom says let's print more money, and then forcing you guys to deal with it. But I guess that's what you signed up for. I don't know, man. I've got no light at the end of the tunnel for you guys. I'm real sorry. It's just a shitty situation to have to be in.
I like to imagine that the devs at Rockstar are like upset, but they get paid enough that they're just like, am I really upset though?
they're wiping their tears with $100 bills while they're driving their Lamborghinis home. Yeah. I don't know what they get paid. If you guys don't get paid well, I understand. Like, I get it, but that's the funny part. So anyway, one last thing I think before we wrap up, for Diablo players out there like me, they are doing another live stream on the 6th, I think, at 11 a.m. Let me double check this time here. July 6th at 11 a.m., which is next Thursday. So the day after you're listening to this, if you're listening to it on Wednesday, at 11 a.m., they're doing a live stream where they'll be going over Season 1 information for Diablo. So if you're a Diablo player, look forward to that. Mike, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Speaking of Diablo, did you see that, I guess, the early access players and the people who got it on or are getting it on public release or something, they're setting up this like competitive wall between them, where it's like if you're early access, then it's like, fuck you, stay over there. I think it's the funniest thing ever.
It definitely started as a joke and has gotten out of hand, but yeah. I saw some comments on Reddit about like, well, now that it's out to the public, they've fucking ruined this game and all this and that. So yeah, look at these common access plebs and it started as a joke. And they're like, this is why we can't have nice things, because these common access bastards, It started as a joke, and it's gotten a little out of hand because somebody got butthurt. But it was all in good fun until somebody got upset. So, like everything on the internet, guys, take it with a grain of salt. Don't stress on it and move on, Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. You can find us on our Patreon, where these get posted a day early with an exclusive content extra edition that we're actually about to go record right now. We're going to be talking about the PlayStation VR 2 and some cool news about that for PC players. You can find that at patreon.com/coindroppod. Our Twitch is twitch.tv/coindropvets. Our YouTube is youtube.com/coindropvods, VODS. And our Discord link should be in all three of those places. So come join our Discord, hang out with us, play games, chat.
We're
cool people. get free games, because apparently that's something Tim's trying to do, and nobody has taken him up on it yet. So get in touch with us. Other than that, have a great night. We'll see you next time.